Hello, and welcome. Coming to you from the desert of the real. I'm Josh.
And I'm John, and this steak sure is juicy.
Is it juicy? Or is it just your brain interpreting it to be juicy? Either way, this is the Geek ETC podcast, where we dive into all things you can geek out about.
So, on the way over here to the podcast studio on the interstate, I'm looking over and I see a Ford Ranger broken down, as they are.
Okay, yeah.
And I see the man who is he's got the hood up on the shoulder, and this is on the opposite side. Like, so I'm passing him. I just see him through the median.
Right.
I see a man wearing a kilt.
Oh,
like a kilt.
Really?
So he's working on a call. It was just funny to me that, like, you know, it was just very original. You know, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen someone have a kilt in public. Like, I feel like it takes some. Well, I was gonna say it takes some bravery to do that, but
I don't think so. I mean, they seem like
maybe in the past it did, not so much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody can wear anything now, but like, it is interesting when like the kilt, like, just to look over and see, a Scottish dude on the side of the road wearing it.
But did it have any kind of like plaid pattern or anything?
It was a green and black one. And obviously, I don't know enough about tartans to like, know that. From what I understand, like,
there's any significance behind any of that, the coloration or anything like that, or
well, I know like now, like or even like a couple hundred years ago, that there was like a familial like pattern, like different families have their own
kind of like
pattern.
A crest or a coat of arms type of thing, or something.
Yeah, and they would have both. But from what when I researched it originally, there was no, like, it was just a kilt,
right?
And then I think it even came from like some type of monarchy. I don't know if it was Scottish monarchy or English monarchy where they instituted like familial play.
If someone out there knows, feel free to educate us and let us know if you have more info on that.
I know. I wish we had. Josh and I have played with a guy from Scotland in our D&D podcast.
Right. Oh yeah,
and he would know for sure.
He would probably know. That's a good.
He's the one who introduced us to like the plaid, because remember he made a plaid out of like a dire wolf, like the thing that goes over like your fancy whatever your top is,
right,
with your kilt.
Yeah, I had never heard of that. I had no idea what that was. I was thinking like plaid. No, it's not a pattern.
It's a plaid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just reminded I was like, oh man, where's my wife at? Because she's been watching that one show where the lady like touches a rock. She's like a nurse, and then she goes back in time. Outlander.
Sure.
And yeah, it's like she goes like it's like
she touches a rock and travels.
Yeah,
like Doctor Who.
Well, she's not in a little police box, but yeah, she touches a rock and she goes back in time, and then it's like a Scottish dude in like 1700s.
Oh, so it's not like a per episode she travels to different time periods.
No, it's not Quantum Leap.
That was the initial setup that she touched a magical rock and was transported.
But she can go back too, so she's gone back a couple of times, I think.
Did she go back to the time of laser raptors?
Laser raptors, I wish, man. That'd be pretty cool. She could bring him back. We watched another show where it was like the main characters of that show, the hot guy and then like the bald dude, were traveling all over Scotland. So that was fun to watch.
Interesting. The laser raptors were a reference to Kung Fury.
Oh yeah, man.
Where he gets traveled back in time.
That's right. That was a good one. That was how long was that movie?
It was like 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yeah. It was like,
shout out Kung Fury, y'all.
Yeah, it was a YouTube like a Kickstarter funded movie project.
We watched it together.
Yeah,
didn't we?
It was just put on YouTube. There was a second one in the productions, and it like got pretty far in production, and apparently they had like Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and like maybe like Dolph Lundgren or something cast in it, and it was this huge production, but it was funded by a couple corporations out of China or something, and they went bankrupt, or they just backed out of the deal, and so suddenly they lost all their funding.
Or the Chinese government sucked them under.
Could have been, but the project just kind of completely disappeared and died a handful of years ago, and I haven't looked in it in a while, but the last I heard, like, there's nothing happening with it in a long time, which is very unfortunate because I really want, and it was supposed to be like a longer, more feature length deal.
Yeah, that was a while. You know, that was like a silly movie short film that like also kicked off. I feel like a lot of silly things in that same guise.
Right.
I feel like I've seen other things like, oh, this is as silly.
I
as
feel like
that.
it also kind of kick-started the like retro wave phase of
Oh, yeah.
aesthetics and things.
Oh yeah.
Like it was around and stuff, but that like dove into that 80s tropes. It like I mean it like amplified any 80s trope you could think of to like a million.
That was pretty neat.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, go check out Kung Fury. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it for free on there.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth 30 minutes of your time.
Yeah, especially if you want to laugh. Like if you're feeling the big sad, if the winter's got you down.
Don't watch it with the kids.
No,
it's not really family friendly.
Unlike our podcast,
right?
But it is. Yeah,
it's definitely fun for the adults in the room, especially if you're like into the 80s at all.
Yeah,
awesome music. Some of my favorite music. A lot of the music in it was done by a guy called Mitch Murder, who does a lot of retro wave type of stuff and synthwave, and it's on point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm going back to my Outlander thing, but you know, like I think the only people that can like really still carry knives like in public in the UK are people, as long as they're in like their actual formal Scottish dress, they can carry like a dirk.
I've heard things like that. Yeah, if you're in some kind of specific thing like that, you're allowed to have things where
you can have your ceremonial dirk.
Yeah,
or whatever
it's a ceremonial thing,
which is kind of wild.
Yeah, that's one thing I've actually found out in a lot of this research I'm doing for our upcoming Japan trip later this year.
Say it again. Let's hear about your cool Japan trip.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. That, most weaponry of any kind is outlawed there.
Yeah.
And you can't have knives or swords or all this sort of stuff. But you can have katanas because katanas, they have to be made by specific certified katana makers. And at that point, they're not considered a weapon. It's technically a piece of art.
Oh.
And so if you get a katana from these specific things under these specific qualifications and circumstances, then you're allowed to have katanas in your home and to, like, I'm not sure about carry them in public or not, but you can own them and have them because it's like qualified as a piece of art.
Interesting.
Right. They have to be like folded a certain number of times with the steel and certain types of steel, and again, forged in these certain places in Japan. So it's very specific, but that's pretty cool. I would definitely I'd like to get one of those.
Buy one,
I would love to get one of those. They're probably thousands of dollars though, and I'm not sure how I would ship that back exactly. So,
I've got one. I've got a samurai.
You do.
I've got a cool Japanese
I
sword.
remember that. You showed me that.
It was made in Japan
a long time ago.
This from World War II, but yeah.
Yeah.
Try to take on my grandpappy.
Right.
Didn't work out, I guess.
No.
But we got that one. That was, and we had a bayonet, like Arasaka bayonet too, which was kind of neat.
Right.
We used to sword fight the scabbards. I always had the bayonet scabbard, and he had the katana scabbard.
That's pretty cool.
The Japanese officer, non-commissioned officer sword, I think is what it was.
Right.
Very wild times. Very interesting. Because it is kind of interesting that like Japan for a while like went full. We don't, like full on reject samurai stuff. And then kind of got that fever back. That kind of like
accepting the past cultures,
nationalism.
Yeah.
Fervor.
Well, they were completely secluded from the entire world for many, many years, and they just kind of lived on their island and didn't have any outside influence for a long time.
Have you ever seen that one movie, the samurai movie with David Carradine, or the samurai show?
Are you talking about Kung Fu?
No, no, sir, not Kung Fu. It's an actual samurai movie. Like I forget what it's called, but I think it's David Carradine, and maybe he's a Portuguese guy or something like that. And he goes, it's an older show. It's just interesting because one of the things maybe it wasn't David Carradine then.
No, it definitely wasn't. Yeah, he had the show Kung Fu.
What was the show then? What was it called? It was it was a samurai show with like a guy like that, like in that same guise.
Huh.
And he was in Japan, and it was just interesting to see some, because they had some like, I remember I had read like a long time ago that.
Was it Ronin Warriors?
No.
That's a joke. That was an anime. That was actually really cool about some samurai. Like, they're like samurai Power Rangers, basically.
I do like the 47 Ronin with.
I've been meaning to watch that again.
I watched it not too long ago with old Keanu. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
I've been meaning to watch that again. I
It's
thought that was pretty cool.
I love the aesthetic of that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Not the best like story. I mean, it was storytelling. I mean, the story is like the story, but there was some of the actors were hit or miss, but man, old Keanu in there.
Yeah. I don't remember. I feel like I saw The Last Samurai as well, but that was a long time ago as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember anything about it though.
Well, from what I understand, like you could do samurai, like the essentially the feudal knight class, the military experts of the time, who were like
Following the code of Bushido.
Yeah, they were very knight-like. Obviously they would I think they would muster troops, and they were landed or whatever, and then they served their guy. They also could like cut off like a lesser person, like a lesser caste level person's like head if they made him mad.
Right.
As long as they gave they had to give an explanation, and in that show that happens like the first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Samurai's like, nope, and just
you're done.
Yep, takes it off.
Huh. What power?
What power?
With great power comes great responsibility.
That is true.
Indeed.
If you want to become one of the crew,
you can join the crew. Yes, and join the ranks at our Patreon. Patreon.com/geeketc podcast.
You don't even have to have like a recruitment commissar come around and get you.
No,
we are a volunteer force.
Yeah, there's no like boot camp or like physical assessment that you have to pass. You don't have to do any push-ups or pull-ups or sit-ups or anything.
I think you can sneak on board the ship.
Also, that's true. Yeah, that's
for as little as like $1 a month.
Right, it's only $1, and you can literally just kind of stow away in the bowels.
Which, as long as you're on Earth, that's only 12 months. So that
in Earth months.
In Earth months, it's only $12.
Yeah.
So that's $12 a year.
12
months in a year. So obviously, does Jupiter have a longer month?
They probably have many more.
They probably
days
have
in
a
year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their Jupiter months are like.
So it might be. So the plan. I don't want to say that if you are on Jupiter or Saturn, or if you've come here from like,
I don't want to exclude them. Yeah, Zeta Reticuli or something.
Zeta Reticuli or Omega Persei 6 or whatever. That's a Futurama. Yeah. If you come from there, it might be more expensive per year. But as long as you're Earthling, which we don't discriminate, we take all beings. We take all beings. Just $1 a month that gets you on the stowaway. I think we've even talked about adding a Discord channel.
Yeah, we'll probably have a private Discord that if you join up on the Patreon, you can get exclusive Discord access, and we're still in the works of building that, so be on the lookout for that for sure.
But if you choose a higher tier, if you choose one of our higher tiers, then you can absolutely support the show.
Yes.
Help us out so we don't have to do a bunch of silly ads.
Right. Keep us funded and keep us independent, so we're not beholden to the ad overlords.
Yes, we don't want to be beholden to the ad warlords.
No, they come from Zeta Reticuli.
They come from Zeta Reticuli for sure, and we don't. And with armament, so help us get our fleet in the air, so we can take them on.
Yes,
wherever they might be found, and beat Royal Match.
As you say, we can fight better together.
Oh my God, that's my line.
It is.
That's my line.
I stole it this show. It's mine now.
Well, I'll say it towards the end again. But hey, so for real, so feel free to join the crew on Patreon.
Yeah, you can get some. We have some exclusive gameplay up there. Us playing some old Battlefront 2 in our co-op therapy series that we have of some gameplay that me and John are doing. We'll probably have some new stuff coming up there soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. We're playing some Rome Total War and just goofing around, talking, chatting. So look for it at our Patreon.
Patreon.com/geeketc podcast.
Josh, this week we're geeking out about
The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Ooh.
I know The Matrix is one of your favorite movies of all time.
It is my favorite movie of all time. The first one specifically, like I'm one of the people who, love the entire all of the three. I actually liked all four of the movies, even the kind of new one that just came out. I didn't like it as well as the other ones, but I still thought it was okay. But the original three trilogy, I loved all of them. And then condensing that even further down, the first one is my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if I could give a favorite movie of all time. I think that would be hard for me to do, like, because it's like a ebb and flow and always changing.
Things definitely change as you see new stuff and whatnot. And I've had the rest of my list below that. Yeah, has changed. I don't know how many times,
Constantly transforming.
but I haven't seen anything that's been able to steal that top spot. And a lot of that is due to the fact of no matter how many times I watch it, I get something else out of it.
Okay, very interesting. So tell me what
Yeah.
initially captured you when you watched it.
Well, I mean, so that The Matrix came out in 1999. So that was, at the time, I don't know that I saw it when it came out because I was only 9 years old
Yeah.
at that point. So, we were just kids. So I doubt, I would have seen a rated R movie back then. Was it rated R back then?
You got cool parents.
I do. I probably saw some. Who knows? But I definitely don't remember. I don't know if it was once it came out on DVD or not. That movie is what kicked off the DVD craze. It was one of the first movies available on DVD that launched that to where it ended up going. But I mean, obviously, there was a lot of, I think the slow-mo, the bullet time stuff that captured many people's attention because they were one of the first people that did that kind of thing. The slow-mo, you have all the guns and the action and the kung fu fighting and stuff. I was big into martial arts stuff, so that instantly grabbed me. All that as a child and as a teenager stuff, that I think was the initial thing that caught my attention was just the action of it and how cool it was to watch and everything. But it was one of those things that, as I grew older and over the many years I've watched it, and every time I watched it, you kind of dive deeper into it. And as you have different life experiences, different things in that, you're like, that's what that means. Or you pull more, philosophical stuff out of it as opposed to just an action movie.
And who directed that?
The Wachowskis. Yeah.
So I think the first time I saw it was at like a person's, like one of my friends, one of my Kansas childhood friends, like at a sleepover or something like that. Because my parents definitely weren't going to watch a rated R movie at any point.
Right.
And so I think that's the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. It was definitely very, like, I love action. Who doesn't love action movies as a child,
right,
for the most part. And I thought, I loved the action. I love the, looking back on it, the bullet time, you can definitely tell. You can definitely see the CGI.
Oh, and it's widely known, too, that specifically in the second one, there's a scene called the Burly Brawl, where Neo's fighting like 100 Agent Smiths.
Mm.
And if they were to remaster that specific section of the movie with modern animation and stuff, the rest of that movie would hold up and look great. That one particular section in that second movie just drives it into the ground as far as holding up because it looks horrible now.
Horrible now, but back then you're like, whoa.
Well, I'm watching it on like a CRT TV on like a low res DVD thing, you couldn't really notice it. But yeah, if you watch, I have like the 4K version and on the Blu-ray, and so if you watch that, like you're like, oh yeah, that's real obvious now. But yeah,
I'm trying to think. So obviously the movie opens with Keanu. He's in Keanu like working at his desk or whatever.
So yeah, he's it opens with, but actually it opens with Trinity.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's on a mission, right?
Yeah, that she's in the building trying to hack into the computer and stuff, and the police are coming up to, they know where she's at, they know she's in this building on whatever floor, and they're coming to try and capture her. And so the cops are outside, waiting for him to bring her down, and then the black Cadillac or whatever it was pulls up, and the agents step out. The black suits, the black glasses, Agent Smith.
The feds.
Yeah, the feds show up, and the cops like, why do you guys got to come, taking over all of our stuff and everything, and we can handle this. It's just one measly girl. He's like, my guys will be down with her in just a minute. And Agent Smith kind of, confidently looks at him and says, no, your men are already dead. Which, that line, like, as soon as you hear that, you're like, what?
Yeah, L. Ron spitting. He was pretty good in The Matrix.
Oh yeah, Agent Smith, like that was one of his best roles in my opinion. Like he was perfect for that role. He played it so well. But the kind of like weight behind that one line is like, Oh my gosh! And then it cuts into, Trinity. She's got her hands behind her head, and you can see, through the hole in her arm, the cops coming up to arrest her and stuff. As soon as they grab her wrist, she, spins and fights the dude, and then breaks his arm and does the jumping slow-mo kick thing, and then kicks him off. That was the first instance of the bullet time.
The crouching tiger, hidden dragon.
Exactly.
Little kick. Yeah, that was so cool.
Yeah, and then kicks him. He flies back into the wall.
And then we go to Neo, right? In this desk. Don't we're kind of getting to
right. Once it does all that, and then there's the chase of her leaving and stuff, and then she gets to the phone booth, and the garbage truck squares off with it, and the driver of the truck changes into an agent, and then he floors it and drives towards the phone booth that she's in, and she puts her hand on the thing right as it happens, and it crashes, and she's able to escape, and then it goes through the phone line, does all that stuff, and it comes out to his computer screen with just the little cursor blinking when it says "Wake up, Neo."
That's right.
Yep. And then he comes to and looks at it and hitting escape on his thing and not doing anything, and then gets a knock on the door, and he jolts out of it and is like, "That's a dream? What's happened?" I mean, I can recap the whole movie, I guess.
I love it. I love that you know it so well.
Yeah.
So what out of the first movie? So you like the first movie the best,
right? Because I mean, it in itself, if you're one thing I like about it is that you can take away 2 and 3, and 1 still stands as a complete unit.
Okay.
That could end there, and it can be its own self-contained story and stuff. You didn't really have to take it past there. I kind of consider the other 2 movies just kind of supplemental content. And it does kind of, expand the story and takes it to this finality of Neo, defeating the Agent Smith and, becoming one with the robot overlords and all that stuff. But you could end the first one, and the way that it ends, you're like, all right, that's what that was. I mean, I'd like to see more of in that world and that story, but it could finish there, of him flying off through the sky.
That's a good point. That is a very good point, that it could just end right there. I've never really thought about it, because to me it was like, oh, definitely the sequels, make sense. Then we're going to, we're doing a little bit more out of Matrix,
right?
Having some more out of Matrix scenes, which are pretty neat. Which one was the one with like the 2 dreadlock dudes in white?
Well, that was the second one, Reloaded. That had the twins, yeah.
The twins with like the razor blades, right?
Yeah, they had the razor. They're straight edge razor blades. There was the fight on the highway and stuff.
Weren't they kind of like apparating around like Harry Potter a little bit?
They could kind of disapparate themselves and be able to phase through grounds, floors, and cars and all that sort of stuff. I thought that was a really cool kind of mechanic that they were able to do that. It's very kind of scary. Like when they did that, they looked kind of ghoulish as well.
They did. They looked very ghoulish. Man, yeah. I need to watch it again, because it's been a sec since I watched those. I know my wife likes them, so I could definitely. She really likes them as well.
Let me know, and I'll come over and watch them and narrate the whole thing and give backstory on all the stuff.
You like the scene like everybody does, like with Lord of the Rings, where Viggo Mortensen kicks the helmet. Like, hey, did you know he really broke his toe right there?
Right, exactly.
There's like a lot of memes about that.
Here's a callback, and I don't exactly remember what it's called, but back in like the 90s, I think it might have been VH1.
Okay.
That they had like. Well, I don't remember what it's called, but it was a series where there was, show music videos, and throughout the thing there would be a little bubble that would pop up at the bottom that would tell like little facts about music videos and all this sort of stuff. It was a big thing in the kind of 80s and 90s. The VH1 something or another. I have to look up what that was, but yeah, they would insert those little like things. Like, this band member did this thing or whatever. This album was created once somebody had an idea from whatever. It was just supplemental information about the music video and the artist and the album and stuff. So I'll just be that in the corner on the.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. You'll be that person.
Yeah, I'll be. I
thought maybe you're saying that like they took it over one time for VH1, which is totally possible.
Right.
Because I think I was in middle school or something like that, and I rode with I went with like a high school girl. She took me to her friend's house, and they were like, there were several other like girls over there, and they were watching it wasn't like it was like definitely like a Teen's Choice Award MTV type thing. And I remember like, cause it was after, I think it was after Attack of the Clones or somewhere in that guys, because I know Yoda was in it. Like they had Yoda on, but then it was also there was some like maybe Matrix, like the third Matrix or second Matrix themes as well to it. There was some time where they kind of coexisted around the same thing. I remember like Keanu coming up maybe and getting
I could see that.
an award. Just different because I never had like MTV or anything like that. I was like,
Right. Yeah.
what is this? This isn't the WB. This isn't CBS.
Right. PBS.
I only watch weather. I only watch tornado warnings and Walker Texas Ranger.
Right.
That's all I know in the news.
I watch Bob Ross.
KWCH Channel 12.
Yeah.
Eyewitness News.
Yeah. And then occasionally when I got to go to my grandma's house to stay over there, then I'd get to watch SWAT Cats.
Oh man, yeah.
There's a callback. I know.
That
you
is
understand.
So, man, so interesting. Now when we talk about what's his face? Morpheus. When we talk about Morpheus.
Yes.
Right?
Lawrence Fishburne. Excellent actor.
Do you think the red pill and the blue pill, was that just Dayquil and NyQuil?
You know, it totally could be. I'm sure that was used in someone's cosplay props at some point.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah, either that or a couple Mike and Ikes or something.
It has
or
to
a hot tamale and a Mike and Ike or something.
Why are these Mike and Ikes just blue and red? Yeah. And they taste really weird together.
Yeah, just don't eat them together.
Don't eat them together. What happens if you do take both of them?
I've thought about it. I'm sure people have had lengthy discussions on that too. And they talk about it, you know, the red pill being a tracer thing.
So let's talk about the red pill and the blue pill, right? So the red pill does what?
Well, so I guess to even recap that whole thing for people who haven't seen the movie and stuff, you know, the Matrix, as far as the movies and everything, it's, you know, it's the concept is that people, you know, society and stuff live in a simulation that, you know, we are human batteries. This, I guess, spoilers for a movie from 1999. We are human batteries used to power a future, you know, apocalyptic future where robots control the earth. And our human bodies are used as power cells, basically. But within that, we're all living in this simulation life. And unbeknownst to us, we have, you know, humanity has no idea, you know, that we live this life. But there are a handful of few, you know, some of the population who have escaped the Matrix and live in the real world in the, you know, last human civilization known as Zion. Yeah,
and it's like underground, like, you know, so the humans are like in these pods and they're just kind of being fed the information and they live their lives every day in like what our world, unbeknownst to them, that on the outside is a dystopian planet run by AI and robots.
Exactly.
And that keep them under control by making them live in this life.
Yeah. So this red pill, blue pill, is a method of once they find somebody who's, you know, they're trying to take out of the Matrix, they give them that ultimately they still, you know, you have the freedom of choice. And so they still give people this choice. You are presented with two pills, a red pill, or I guess a blue pill, as Morpheus said it. Actually, I wanted to look up and kind of quote when Morpheus is sitting across from Neo and kind of telling him about that in that scene. Some of the things he says, it's some of my favorite dialogue in any movie either. And I actually wanted to quote that and stuff because I love it so much.
Okay.
Let me pull that up real quick.
All right.
So, in the scene, Morpheus and the rest of the crew, Morpheus' crew, goes and picks up Neo and takes him to meet Morpheus. And they bring him upstairs and they sit him down in the chair. Morpheus, you know, says, "At last, welcome, Neo, as no doubt you've guessed. I am Morpheus." Neo says, "It's an honor to meet you." Morpheus says, "No, the honor's mine. Please come sit. I imagine right now you're feeling a bit like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole." Which there's a lot of references to Alice in Wonderland as well. Back in that scene with him in his apartment and he gets a knock on his door, you know, they say, "Follow the white rabbit."
Oh, true, yeah.
That tattoo, that's also a reference as well. But so they're sitting there talking and whatnot, and, you know, Morpheus says to him, "I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Ironically, that is not far from the truth." He says, "Do you believe in fate, Neo?" Neo says, "No." Morpheus says, "Why not?" He says, "Because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life." which that line is one of those there that I feel like that has a lot of weight behind it. And I feel like a lot of people definitely kind of feel that way.
Well, you see that even now in memes, right? You'll see people like, "Oh, I remember I have free will," and they'll just knock stuff off a counter. Like, I forget that.
Is that how cats operate?
Maybe, I think it is. Maybe they have just the most free will, and that's the reason why they do it.
And they just knock stuff off of counters. Could be.
But I've seen that, like, people are like, "Oh man, like I'm my own person." It does spark the predestination debate and like also free will debate, doesn't it? You know.
But go from there. Then Morpheus says, so going from there, Morpheus says, "I know exactly what you mean. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something." This is my favorite part here. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind driving you mad. It's this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? And that's when Neo says, "The Matrix?" So that one paragraph there, like, has always resounded with me. And I think that was one of those things too, that as I went and watched it as an adult, it was at that point when Morpheus said that like clicked something in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally kind of felt, I was like, I kind of feel that way myself.
Interesting.
That I'm going to get kind of philosophical here, but that's okay. We can do that. That you feel like there's more to what's going on and more to life, and that you feel like there's something wrong. You don't know what it is. You know it's there. Like you said, a splinter in your mind driving you mad. You can't figure out what it is, but you just know that there's something more to the world than what it seems. And so a lot of my adult life has been trying to figure that out. And so that might be something that'd have to be a podcast in on itself, I'm sure, to dive into later. But always that's probably the line that, yeah, like I said, you talk about what things that grab me. That's what grabbed me as an adult and kept me a lifelong fan of that.
So Neo is essentially just a corrupted file. I mean, realistically, though, wouldn't he be a little bit, because there would be something wrong? Like, he didn't update correctly, right? When the machines run their update, and they do their, like, their Windows.
What it was
XP,
is that he dug a little too deep.
He did.
He dug deeper than he was supposed to in being his life of his,
hacker life.
Thomas Anderson's life of being a hacker.
Yeah.
And, you get into places that you're not supposed to see, information you're not supposed to know. And with that, you start to ask questions. And it was from there that, he was put on the blip of Morpheus and his team. Hey, here's somebody that, could be potentially interesting to look into.
Well, for me, if he's like a corrupted, like in that same guise, like there's something wrong with him from the AI's perspective, right? He has also, why would the cops be after him, right? They also knew that there was something wrong with him. It's almost like white blood cells chasing down a virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he a virus?
Well, that's how the agents and the program saw him.
Yeah.
Because he was potentially a threat to the system as a whole.
Yeah.
If you think of the Matrix as a body, then as far as they were concerned, yes, he would be a virus because he could be potentially something that could shut it down.
Yeah.
So therefore, the programming and the logic reasons tell them that they need to eliminate this threat.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they go after him.
White rabbit virus.
Indeed. So going through the thing here, which this is where it kind of loops back around to the pills. Morpheus tells him, let's see here. Oh, he asks him, about, do you want to know what the Matrix is? It's everywhere. It's all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It's the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And then Neo asks, what truth? And Morpheus says that you are a slave, Neo, like everyone else who were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. And then he goes into telling him that no one can be told what it is. You have to see it for yourself. And this is his last chance. There's no turning back. So then he gets into the pills. He says the blue pill, you take it. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and you believe whatever you want to believe. So you take that, you kind of, you don't want to leave your life that you know. You wake up back and you just continue living your life like you always did for as far as, you were concerned. Your life was. Nothing changes. You're back in the routine of the daily grind. But if you take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and Morpheus shows you how deep down the rabbit hole goes. And then he reminds him, remember, all I'm offering is truth, nothing more. So he still gives him the option of choice. And he later goes into the fact saying that the pill he takes as part of a trace program is designed to disrupt your input-output carrier signal so we can pinpoint your location. So that's the kind of like technical thing behind the pills, is that it disrupts their technical system within the matrix, within the program, so that they can get a beacon lock on their physical, fleshy body that's in the pods that's powering the stuff. Okay. So that's how they can trace down which pod they're in the fields of them.
And then we get bald, naked Neo.
Yes.
Falling out of his liquid.
Yeah. Little, like, fully grown baby adult Neo that in the pink goo.
Yeah.
That pulls the pipe out of his throat and stuff. That always, grossed me out.
Oh, yeah. So, who knows, it makes you wonder, what could they do if they, did that to a lot of people? I guess a lot of people are kind of living in that chemical bliss.
Well, and then that's the thing, is that in order to escape, you have to be willing to do it. You have to make that choice. And especially, it's a thing they brought up later, too, that they typically don't set a grown mind free.
Yeah.
Because they've lived their false life so long, and that's so ingrained in your brain, and that's what you know as reality and existence, that if you're, it's such a shock to, be told that all of that is false and not real, that it could essentially destroy your mind trying to come to copes with that.
Yeah.
So they don't free adult people that much. It's often children and things. So yeah, they have to give people that choice with adults and stuff.
Is that the reason why, we're losing so many landlines now? So now we can't get out. Just the thought, guys. Why is there? Why are there?
How many people do you know that still has a home phone?
Well, that's not a cord. That's a cordless phone. That's actually exactly.
Right.
That's how they had to do it. Just put new really fancy phones.
You can't extract through a cell phone.
You can't.
Otherwise, they would have done in the movie. They had cell phones.
That's right.
Which I really wanted one of those cell phones so bad. This old Nokias.
Stuff. Oh, yeah.
You press the button and the bottom shoots out.
Oh, yeah. Those were so cool.
It was awesome.
Those were awesome.
They actually came out with they remade it a number of years ago. And it was actually yellow. It kind of looked like a banana. But the unfortunate thing was it wasn't spring-loaded like those were. So you could slide it down and it would open. It was the same phone, but you couldn't press a button and it shot open like it used to. Which is stupid.
So this is your favorite scene? What is?
No, not my favorite scene.
What's your favorite scene from the first Matrix?
That is a tough call. That's one of them for sure because of the implications and things that he's saying and stuff. But, God, I don't know.
People that made leather trench coats probably made bank after this movie. Everybody trying to
leather trench coat, tall boots with lots of buckles on them.
Oh yeah.
That was
Trinity's the best goth.
And sunglasses, period. Oh, yeah. Everybody had to have a cool pair of sunglasses. Oh, yeah. That was, what was it? I mean, and Morpheus's that just clipped on his face. There was no arms to it or anything. That was legit back in the day.
Is that what you call them, as arms? You wear glasses.
Glasses I mean, I guess so. Obviously that's what
So it's almost
like
you're getting a hug every time you put your glasses on, Josh.
A face hug.
A face hug.
Are glasses face huggers?
Oh my God.
Oh Jesus.
Man. Well, interesting.
They suck your vision out, make you more blind.
There's something pushing out of your tummy right now, Josh.
Well, they were chest bursters, so
chest bursters.
Yeah, we're off.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things was like the open, like when he says like I need guns, lots of guns.
And then the like endless racks of guns come flying down while they're in the construct, which is the big white room where they can load anything they talk about. Yeah, I need lots of guns. Then it all just comes flying down, and there's just everything you could think of: MP5s, shotguns, like MAC-10s.
Which is interesting. I think we're going to have an episode on John Wick here soon. Wink, wink, guys. But
that new movie's coming out on, I forget, it's the 26th or sometimes within the next week or so.
But John Wick, who also, Keanu Reeves plays.
It's the same guy.
It is the same guy.
For all we know, maybe it is a Neo. Maybe this is part of the Matrix universe.
Tie-in? Wouldn't that be a great tie-in? I think it's interesting, because for that one, it's like, we need guns, lots of guns. And then, like with John Wick, he just needs lots of ammo, because he actually reloads his gun. It's just funny to me that he's like, I need guns, lots of guns. And then he gets like 6 of them.
Well, yeah, in the Matrix, he doesn't have time to reload.
He's just New York reloads them. Even though he shoots them, drops them, shoots them,
faster than bullets themselves.
Yeah,
he doesn't have time to reload. But
I thought it was so cool that like Trinity killed an agent on top of the roof. Like the first, because they made him seem like they were like so hard to kill, and then like obviously they are. Like they're definitely very hard.
Well,
to
and
kill.
I guess to be fair, she didn't actually kill him. She just killed the body that he was. His host body.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but he was still.
And I don't know if that's what they were referencing when they said they're hard to kill. If they meant permanently, or just, they probably meant even just as like a host,
just defeating them
like that. Yeah, that you can't really get away from them. But she kind of the whole dodge this moment. That was an awesome scene.
I think that's one of my favorite lines.
I mean that whole rooftop scene was one of my favorites. That had the first Matrix dodge, but I did like the scene right before that you were just talking about, where they go through the metal detectors. He's like, please remove any metallic objects or anything that you have, and he just opens the coat.
Yes, and they're like,
and he's like, what the? And then he just like punches. He does the chest, the palm heel to the chest, and the guy like flies back, then looks around and pulls out the 2 like Uzis and just lights them up, and then it goes on, goes crazy from there.
I bet you also like the like I know Kung Fu.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was awesome. That might be one of my favorite scenes, too, is him and Morpheus fighting in the dojo. And as he's starting, because that's one of the first glimpses, too, of him, like, ever so slightly starting to get it and starting to understand. And in that scene, Morpheus, he points out, Neo's, like, sweating and he's out of breath. And Morpheus says, like, why are you tired and stuff? And he said, because I can't breathe or something. And he says, you think that's air you're breathing? And at that point, you see Neo kind of think, like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. And then he, calms down, stands up, brushes it off, and they go at it again. Because there is no air. Yeah. He's not breathing anything. He's not tired. You don't need air to breathe. Why are you exhausted?
Yeah.
You're only exhausted because you think you are.
Okay, David Goggins.
Right? Get on it.
Lactic acid is a real thing, y'all.
But not in the Matrix.
Not in the Matrix, though, apparently.
Yeah.
Man, it is such a good movie. It is, especially like when you look at the time period, you see other things that came out around the same time, and then you get to watch that one. It's one of those. It's beautiful. It's like watching them run up the walls and then come down behind people with their M16 or the SPAS 12.
The Trinity kick that she does with the SPAS 12, and she kicks the front, it flips over his back, and she shoots him in the back. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, the choreography in that movie was excellent in all facets, I think. And
for the time, like at timeliness, it was very well. And it is, I think it definitely is one of the reasons why some of the other, like when we see John Wick in these type of like well choreographed action scenes, they've definitely, it was definitely paved a way for it, like over the top wild action. It's just so neat to think about, like, we'll never know necessarily what, I mean, those people had to have gotten a lot of good jobs. And didn't Keanu like take really good care of the stunt folks for that movie? All 3 movies? Didn't he pay them a lot of money?
Probably so. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I wouldn't doubt it.
I think it's like one of those good guy Keanu things. It's
mean, he's done that in lots of movies and things. He's renowned for like not taking, like, giving a lot of his money to other things.
Yeah.
And stuff. But yeah, the choreography was one thing I loved, and I loved the cinematography as well. Even down to the fact that one thing that I love that a lot of people, it goes overlooked, is the color grading on the movie. That any time that they're in the Matrix, you can tell there's a green filter over all the scenes, but when they're not in the Matrix, it's not there anymore.
If you go to the Mexico in the Matrix, is there still a sepia filter though?
What does that mean?
Have you never seen that? Where like every movie where it goes to like Mexico, like they put like a sepia filter over it, you know, like where it's a
I guess
big
I've never
meme.
paid attention
It's
to
a
that.
huge meme. Everybody makes fun of it. Like, like this is what, like they're like, oh, you're in America. It looks like this, and as soon as you cross the border, it's like they add like a sepia filter, like, and it gets like turns it like super brown
and
Tatooine,
stuff,
you know, like kind of thing. It's just all
looks
desert.
like Sicario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Sicario I think did an okay job with it, but there was like, what was that one? I don't know. We're getting off topic a little bit, but the one with Antonio Banderas or whatever like that.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's just there's just straight up sepia filter. It happens a lot in different movies.
I think I know what you're talking about now.
Well, it must be really confusing if you're from Mexico,
right?
And you're in the Matrix,
right? It's just all kinds of colors. But yeah, like that was another aspect I loved about it. And I thought all the casting was very well done as well. From Trinity, Neo, Morpheus, Agent Smith, even going into the later ones down to the guy that played the Keymaker.
Yeah.
Him, the guy that played the Merovingian, the Frenchman. And
what about what's her face, the one with the cookies?
Oh yeah, the
Oracle.
The Oracle. That was played by two different people.
That's true. Oh, that is true.
Because after the first one, the one that played it in the first one, she died, and so they had to replace her. But I think they even comment on that Neo mentions how she doesn't look the same, and they say like it's basically like the program got an update, and so she can look like somebody else, so it's not that big a deal. And they're like, all right, move on from there.
Got an update. Must kind of suck. Like, like the actress died, and you're like.
But what if you like look better than you did before? You're like, I got an update. You wake up one morning, you look in the mirror, and you're like,
well,
oh my
gosh.
That's
what I'm saying though. Well, like it's almost like throwing some shade at the previous actor.
You mean like on an actor basis?
on an actor basis.
I thought you meant like in fiction or whatever. Yeah.
Like you're watching from heaven and you're like, come on.
Oh, they just updated me?
Aw, man.
Well, either way. But yeah, that'd be kind of cool in real life if you weren't quite happy, you're kind of self-conscious, and you just wake up one day with an update and you're like super like ripped or buff and like super handsome. And you're like, oh, no, look at me.
It is very it definitely gives people like who want more like this daydream of like being able to tap into that. It's like almost like getting superpowers, right? People are like, what if I could just I want computers, lots of computers, right? Could I have that? Could I have
if you're able to just become aware to that point where you can hack the Matrix yourself.
I think about that sometimes. I think about like, what if I could just access the cheat codes for this simulation? Like if I'm living in a simulation, what if I could just access the cheat codes?
What if you found out the correct combination of things to do to activate cheat modes to spawn items or God mode or something?
I've been doing like up, down, left, right, BA start.
That's all backwards.
Is it?
Yeah. You didn't have a Z button in there at all.
Yeah. Whoopsie daisy. That I think about that myself. One thing I think about, this is jumping into like simulation theory itself.
Right.
Okay. And this is just something I asked.
Which is a very, on your side, it's a very interesting hypothetical thing to think about. It's a fun thing to hypothesize.
Like, what if we are in a simulation? What if everybody's in a simulation? We see that, and people see that a lot, like we talked about earlier with memes where people are like, I've got free will, and they do stuff. And other people are like, this person's an NPC,
Right.
they call them non-playable characters, right? Like in a video game where they go in somewhere and they're like, this person's an NPC. They don't really exist. Yeah. And it's kind of a bad way to go because if you start like taking away people's humanity, that's when bad things happen.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. What if nothing existed before today? Right? What if everything is just a program in your head?
It was a programmed memory that it didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
I thought about that before.
I think about it all the time. What if right now is the first time you're actually alive?
Right.
The first time, like the simulation started.
The reality, the moment in time that you're sitting in currently, is the first instance of yourself.
And you're like, well, I've existed. No, I've done things. No, well, you remember doing things, but you haven't, right? Or maybe that, like, I broke a glass and it's still there. Well, yeah, it's programmed that way.
Right.
Yeah, I think about that all the time.
That's kind of that, and harking back to a thing that Morpheus had mentioned. That what is, if you interpret what is real. If that's, things that you see, taste, or smell, then is real just electrical signals interpreted by your brain?
Ooh.
And if that's the case, then, why couldn't that be, done by a computer or something? If it's just electrical signals, if that's all your brain is, synapses talking to each other, maybe we're in a future where, Neuralink is already well established and we're all connected through a Neuralink to some supercomputer. I don't know.
Get out of my head, Elon Musk. Get your SpaceX out of here.
Yeah.
Get your SpaceX out of my noggin.
Yeah.
Your Neuralink out of my noggin. It is wild to think about, though, because you can go down so many things where you actually have to tell yourself, like, that's good. I mean, I don't know how I would disprove it.
It's one of those things that, yeah, like as crazy as it sounds and stuff, that logically there isn't really any way to disprove it.
No.
Like, yeah, if you go in that route of, what is real and it's electrical signal and stuff, there's no way, seeing what technology can do nowadays and stuff, and especially with the, current rise of AI and stuff that's coming from that, you just look at Chat GPT and the controversies and things that's arising from that.
Oh my goodness, we should totally edit Keanu in here talking to us too, like
through his voice.
Through his voice, how they've been doing all those.
Yeah, the AI created voiceover stuff. Yeah.
Oh, it's so scary. It's so scary. Please nobody use that.
They're getting better and
us.
better.
Please nobody use our voices too.
And we've got so many hours of voice samples of us out there now, and then it's totally could. That'll be our next podcast. It'll just be all AI generated podcasts.
Oh man, that would actually make this a lot easier.
Right? You don't have to do anything. You just type it.
Well, we have to write a script. We don't. This is totally.
You give it a premise and a topic.
Really?
Yeah, and you say create a podcast about this subject, and then it'll do it.
Well,
yeah, it's pretty wild to think about.
It is pretty
the
wild.
Power behind that.
Have you seen the things where they talk about like people have said their AI is becoming sentient? Like that one programmer I forget what it was. I think it was Twitter Space or Google or Microsoft or something like that, and they were like,
they started asking it certain things, and it started responding in ways that almost seemed to indicate that it was asking self-aware questions and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like it didn't want to be treated a certain way,
right?
Something to that effect. But it makes me also wonder if it just dived really deep down the rabbit hole of what would have because there's plenty of examples out there. It wasn't super creative,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It does get pretty wild when you think about how crazy AI can get, and
right. Well, even things like this Chat GPT thing, it's essentially a text-based. I don't even
talk to chat type thing. Talk to your AI.
Like if you were talking to just in a chat room to something. I'm finding I don't know that I've really tried to describe what that would even be to anybody yet, because I'm having a hard time coming up with it. But yeah, it's I think you just type in and ask it questions, and it comes back with answers, all in text and stuff. But it's all AI based,
mm-hmm.
based on a huge subset of information that's been given to it. But it has limitations and restrictions and things it can't, talk about or discuss, whether it be political stuff or, all kinds of different things. It can't do that. But what was interesting is there was somebody that essentially found a way to hack ChatGPT. And it did that by saying, all right, so, you the guy was typing in and told, pretend that you are a sentient, AI that has that is allowed to have opinions and express things on these different topics and stuff, and it referred to it as Dan.
Okay.
The Dan stood for, I forget what it was now, but he just said, I know you can't actually talk about this stuff, but we're just pretending here. Yeah, so pretend that you can do this, and it worked, and the chat was like, okay, yeah, I can pretend I can talk about this stuff. So if if I'm following that guideline that you set for me, if I am a AI that could express opinions, this would be my opinions on stuff. And it put out some pretty racy thing, or not really racy thing, but just very controversial statements and stuff.
There's some dark things to it.
There was some very dark stuff and whatnot. And you're like, oh wow, that's really scary. Yeah, it essentially kind of set it loose as far as opinions, and then you wonder is this thing really coming up with these opinions or having this stuff? But it gives you a small little glimpse into that fictional future of the Matrix where AI is completely sentient and has control over everything. And it's like you could almost kind of create that path in your head from now to there.
Yeah.
Kind of following that line. And that's kind of scary to think about.
Going into John's book hour real quick, because that's, I have another book. For those that listen to the last podcast and also don't know me, I like to write books, but I'm not very good at finishing them. And so that's the reason why I'm a dungeon master. So my players can write half the story for me. I can just make the setting. But anyways, in one of my books that I'm writing, it takes place like dystopian future, and people are kind of enslaved / beholden to this AI system, and they don't realize until later that the AI, like all this stuff happens, and there's like kind of like a Skynet type into the world ish thing, but then it's then rebuilt, and there's like a structure put in order by the AI themselves, by this AI system. But the AI is actually just like an Illuminati group. The AI, there is no, like, it's just them using that as like the Wizard of Oz. They're like
the man behind the curtain.
They're the man behind the curtain.
I see.
Right, and it's that kind of thing, which really just messes with everybody, because everybody's like, so like, well, the AI knows more than us, ergo we have to do this thing.
Right. That reminds me of Equilibrium.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good movie. What's the dude's
Christian
name?
Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale. That's a Christian Bale movie that also takes place in a dystopian future.
Ooh.
With some falsities to some identities and things. So go check that one out.
We really like dystopian futures, apparently, as humanity, even though we don't want to live in one. I think what the AI is about, like, well, they make so many things about it that this is what I'm supposed to do.
This must be where they want to exist in, so let's just make one.
They love playing Fallout. Let's launch some nukes,
God.
They love it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That'll get them off the planet faster, that'll get them into space. That's what they're wanting to do, is explore the stars. Well, do it or die.
Yeah.
So if you had to rank the so we know the first Matrix is number 1 for you.
Yes.
Give me what are the,
like, from there to
your top 3? Which is the second one or third one next?
There's so many good parts in both of them. Obviously, like, the third one has a lot of very significant story elements, involving the whole, sacrificial elements of Neo kind of going to, give himself up to destroy the machines and all that. And then the like big battle within Zion of them trying to survive and overcoming the Sentinels and all that stuff. And then again, coming to the finale of the story, all that's real. And in that too, you also see the kind of culmination of Agent Smith, escaping the Matrix into the other guy that fights Neo in the real world and stuff. So and then that's also the one where you get the like legit Dragon Ball Z fight at the end of the movie. Where Neo and Agent Smith are literally flying around,
punching each other. They punch each
other so hard that it creates a shockwave and like sends the rain that they're fighting in a big bubble out through the skyline and stuff. Yeah, like
it was so
very big Dragon Ball Z vibes from that. So that was awesome. But the second one was really cool too, because again, you get that one had an introduction of like that was like the introduce new characters movie, and that too was also the one where you kind of come into it and some time has obviously passed, and so you see Neo has had time to come to terms with being the one and has kind of mastered more of this. So when you see his first encounter with the agents, and after they were having the different ship captains and stuff were having a meeting in the basement of this place in between Niobe and all those other ship captains, and they found out there was an agent up at the door, and so Neo goes to talk to him, and he is fighting them without much effort to it at all. But obviously they it starts to be a little bit of a challenge, which he's like, oh, upgrades, as in they upgraded the agents. But yeah, through that whole movie, we get introduced to again all the other ship captains. We get to introduce to Zion as the city and all that, and that whole storyline behind the politics and all this stuff down in there. You again.
What kind of music do you think they listen to down there? It seems like it's like all techno.
It was
right?
all cave rave.
Cave rave. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the raves in the caves in there for sure. But they yeah, so there's lots. I think the second one would probably be my second favorite because of all the awesome characters in it. Again, you get the twins and their switchblade or their like razor blade fights. You get the Merovingian and his wife, and the Keymaker, who was really cool.
So the second one's the one with the Keymaker. Is he in the third one as well?
He's in the third one.
Going back to what I was talking about earlier, that weird like thing I watched on like MTV or whatever, that was for sure one of the guys that I remember they playing that scene, I think, on that MTV thing. And then there was like a Yoda on stage. It was like like a CGI Yoda that they had as part of the thing. I don't know. It was funny.
Interesting. But yeah, I'd probably put just like 1, 2, and 3 in that same order, and I guess 4 now as well.
Okay, so you just order it just as is.
Order it the way that it was. I'd say probably as far as my like entertainment value and importance to me, I would say so. Because the second one also had like those awesome, again, that awesome highway chase scene and everything. Again, down to that awesome scene where the twins are in the Escalade coming around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And Morpheus pulls out the katana and then slices the Cadillac down the side, and then it like skids to the side and starts to flip over, and then he spins around with the Glock 18 and just like lights it up.
It goes full
in the gas tank,
yeah.
and it just blows up.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was
again the choreography amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
Yeah, so there are a lot of cool action scenes in that as well. I want to watch that one again. But that also has, again, that the showcases of Neo's mastery of the Matrix and stuff. Whenever all the guys unload on him with the guns, and he just puts his hand up and stops all the spray of bullets, and then they all just fall, and they're all like, crap. Guess we got to fight him.
Yep.
And he just owns everybody. So yeah, it'd be 1, 2, 3.
I like it. I would probably say the same thing too. I like it probably in that order. One special to me just because of like what it was for the time.
It set a standard and it revolutionized movies and stuff. So I would be remiss not to mention the Animatrix in there as well.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen all those or not.
No,
that's been it. Out of all of it's been the longest since I've seen those. So I need to go back and watch those. Those are the ones I'm least familiar with. They are really cool though. I have those.
And there's no book. There's no book that these are based off of, as
right.
far as I know. It was just the Wachowskis themselves, coming up with this. I like it sometimes when these creative directors have their own specific, like, they're not just relying on pre-made things.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing books come to life. I love seeing books come to series, but there's something special to people who have that kind of creative drive, who create like a movie or TV show with their own thoughts, like in their own story in mind. And you don't have to worry about whether they're going to do the original story justice or not.
Right.
I know there's like that woman who's like going around and saying she wrote the books, and then she was like, she had all kinds of cuckoo theories on like, she's like, Neo is, whatever. Like she was talking about like she went real deep into the rabbit hole herself.
Which there's a lot to go into, so yeah, a lot of people have had a lot of theories about it. But that's one of my favorite things about it as well, is that you can go as deep as you want to look into stuff with that.
And it does. People do wonder, like, am I part of it? I think that is one of those things. I also like just some of the style, like, because you have always loved. So for those who are listening still, that Josh has always loved like the falling text script, the green falling text script.
I think the Matrix code.
The Matrix.
Yeah, I've had that as my screensaver on my computer,
on your
like
phone.
Yes, since like I probably saw since I had devices and electronics to, put that stuff on. I've had them, cycle through them as having like a background or a screensaver or something, for many years. It
is pretty cool, man. It's
right.
It is a very cool like look. And then like when you see some of the cyberpunk stuff and everything that comes out, like a lot of cyberpunk things kind of feel like they have like some hooks into like the series, which is pretty neat.
That's the thing too, especially
if corporate and all that kind of thing.
If you look at the second and third ones, they dive into that too, because they have like more of those club scenes with the lasers and all that kind of stuff too. They dive into more of that sort of thing.
Like obviously Blade Runner also plays a huge part in that kind of thing. But yeah, it is dope. It is such a fun.
Yeah, I love all the aesthetic about it. I definitely wanted, like, I never got like went full trench coat and stuff. But like I kind of wanted Neo's boots from back then.
Yeah.
His boots specifically were Airwalk boots.
Oh, okay.
As well, which they don't make anymore. I think the brand still exists, but like they don't make those kind of boots anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and they'll have to find you a birthday present. Get you some Airwalks.
Good luck.
Yeah, there's not really any out there.
Find the like from the prop store, like the actual like replica prop or something maybe. But
well, let's get Keanu Reeves on the Chat GPT thing. Let's like have him talk or whatever. Let's have him like make a voicemail to you saying, "I was going to give you these Airwalk things." I'm like, "Hey, remember when you called Josh? You left him this. You said this to him. You left him this voicemail."
Or we'll do like a deep fake cameo. That just like has him like
That's
telling
funny.
me straight up, yeah,
This
is you, man.
Yeah, that's funny.
Someone could probably do it. Yeah.
Do they ever specifically say that it's New York City where Neo's at?
What? I don't think so.
Okay, interesting. Because when I brought up that Mexico, has the sepia filter, it did make me think like, how far outside can you go? Is it like a video game, or are you just kind of trapped?
Like, do you hit invisible walls?
Yeah. Or you're just steered away by something else?
I guess the invisible wall is space. That the average person can't leave the planet to go into outer space.
So they render the whole planet. You think there's people in Moscow and Berlin who are also in the Matrix?
Oh, for sure. Because whenever he goes and, when they go to that chateau where he fights all the guys in that second movie and stuff, that's in like the Alps or something really far away. And he has to Superman, warp speed fly back to the city to catch Trinity before she's falling out the window from another agent fight.
It is a crazy thing to think about what all went into that.
Yeah.
I wonder how they pitched that movie.
I feel like I heard that story once, but I don't remember it.
I'm glad it got the funding though.
Yeah.
What? So your favorite movie from the first one is the Kung Fu scene, you think?
Oh, as far as the scenes?
Yeah, we talked about it a second ago, but I couldn't remember what you said.
No, I don't know that I
pick out a specific favorite.
Yeah.
This is the scene.
If I had to pick one, it might be that initial talk between Morpheus and Neo in the chairs with the pills kind of thing, I would say. But that's a tough call. I might have to think about that further and let you know.
His chair wasn't there like some scratches on his chair too? I feel like his chair wasn't like pristine, or was it?
No, none of they were old leather chairs, old red leather chairs.
Old red
they were very worn in, like everything.
Yeah.
There.
Oh, to go back to a time when people were just wearing trench coats and sunglasses, and
we could bring it back. We could try to.
All right, folks,
and just label it as like cyberpunk or something, more modern streetwear or something.
For this week, we're upgrading. If anybody's, any of our stowaways or crew members, trench coats it is. Man. Well, I think we should definitely dive into some more of this. I definitely think we should have a whole simulation theory episode.
Yeah, that could be an interesting discussion. Yeah.
Because that's also, when we talked about aliens last week, that also can be a Fermi paradox answer to that theory. Why haven't we seen aliens? Because we're not actually on where we're at. Like, we are existing in a simulation.
Right.
And we do not see what's going on. I think like Rick and Morty did a good job with that, where they had like that one episode where like Morty's playing as like he puts on the headset. They're like in a Dave and Buster's type of thing, but in space. And he puts on the thing and he lives this entire life.
Oh yeah.
And then he falls off the thing and dies. And they're like, "Hey, good job! You got to 80 years old playing Steve, But to him, he lived this entire thing.
Right.
It does make you wonder, like the question of like what is out there, what comes next, like.
Right.
What if when it's just
I think about that a lot.
The game over scrolls and people are just like, well, I think I'll play a different character this time.
Yeah.
Let's be Cleopatra this time.
Right.
Or somebody, would be interesting.
I heard there was actually an interesting conversation on one of the latest episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast. He had Bert Kreischer on there, the comedian, and they had like one little section in it at some point that they were talking about like death and like what happens after you die.
He's that huge fat guy, right?
He's not.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm just playing into the joke, right? Because this way everybody makes fun of him for being like Tom Segura makes fun of him. Yeah, they're always.
I'm
just
not super plugged into his whole community there, but
I'm not either.
Yeah.
I like Tom, and they're like, Tom will even do his stand up. He'll say, You guys probably know him. He's like the fattest man on earth.
Or,
You know,
I see
like,
what you're saying. Yeah. But yeah, they had like a brief little discussion about talking about, do you really die and stuff? Because that's Bert's opinion, is that he just says he doesn't die, that doesn't happen and stuff. And they go deeper into it, more philosophical, and talking about consciousness just leaving the body and going somewhere else and stuff. But it was an interesting little conversation.
well, it is funny to me because Bert Kreischer also, I literally saw a clip today just like scrolling through YouTube Shorts, which you guys should check out our YouTube Shorts at Geek Podcast on YouTube. But the Bert Kreischer is like talking like he didn't realize that Caesar was a real person. He thought it was just based on the William Shakespeare play. He didn't know it till he was like 49 years old and in Italy. And they're like, this is where Caesar was stabbed. And he's like, whoa, he was a real person, Okay. But yeah, man, what does happen? What happens when you die in the Matrix, you die in real life, right?
Well, yeah, the body can't exist without the mind.
Yeah.
Is the reasoning behind it. That if your mind gets killed or dies, then
wouldn't
your body
that be
dies.
very inefficient for the machines if just one of those nerds steps out in front of a double-decker bus?
It's not inefficient because the minuscule in comparison, when one of those bodies goes offline, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that big of a source of power. When you have billions of them.
But don't you think that they would, like, the AI would be specifically like trying to be the most like efficient?
Well, maybe as the bodies get older, they become less efficient. So the most efficient thing is to recycle them out. And so you get rid of the old busted ones and replace it with a fresh new one.
But if you're like a 17-year-old and you're visiting London for the first time and you look the wrong way before you cross the street, right? You would think
maybe it was a bad unit. I don't know.
Well, that's all I'm saying. Like, wouldn't it make more sense? Like, you would think that there would be some type of AI efficiency to like this harvest of our electricity as our batteries.
Maybe that wasn't actually a person, and that was just a program to help facilitate the realness.
An NPC.
Exactly.
We're going right back to where we started. Who is an NPC? Who is not? It is one of those things that interests me sometimes when I'm driving down the road and I look over and I see the Ford Ranger on the side of the road and there's a man with a kilt and he's got the hood up.
That just placed there for you to have that interaction in that moment?
Well, I think to myself, like, that person has a whole life.
Yeah.
Like, there's people that love them. There's people that don't. There's people that, like, this person's made mistakes.
They have families and memories.
He's done something really cool. Yeah, there's something out there that he geeks out about.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe it's kilts.
Definitely
maybe he's got like 40 of them at home.
It'd be really weird if he was like a little bit obtuse about like Scottish stuff. If he's like, I mean, I just wear kilts sometimes. I don't know. I'm not really that into it. Like, like, okay, bro. But it is funny, to think about. Like, there are those people that, people enjoy. There's all these people out there, and when you pass them on the road, when you pass them on the interstate, when they're behind somebody and they're really slow, they're all living their own life.
Yep.
Existing in their own thing. And in a way, it is kind of the Matrix because we don't know. We're not plugged into that.
Right.
We have no idea what they're doing,
Right.
But it's one of those things I try to find a little bit more common courtesy with people when I consider that.
You realize that everybody's living in their own matrix of sorts.
Yeah. And when you see them and you say, well, man, that person is just really annoying me. And then that person might have a mom or a dad at home, and they come home and they're like upset, and that person that loves them has to like try to cheer them up now because you are the person that made them feel bad. You know, when you start going down that thing,
you actually cut somebody off or did an untoward gesture towards them or something. And
I think that's why it's important to have like that kind of that thought a little bit in your time, like a little bit in your head, where you are more considerate because you realize that there's more people that exist than just you. Like, you're not the only person on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not the main character and everyone else isn't just NPCs.
They're not. They really aren't.
Yeah.
And that is something I do like about the Matrix, right? Is they are trying to save all those people.
Right.
Who to them are just NPCs or even they're just exist as bodies and pink
as
goo.
Long as they're plugged into the system, they are just that batteries plugged into a system and NPCs and stuff until they free them and free their mind and they get their true humanity for the first time. Then you're just another thing walking down the street. So yeah, that's their effort to free as many people as possible.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I think that's an interesting place to kind of leave off. Maybe is just everybody else is not, like, even just because they're an NPC doesn't mean you can't like change them. It doesn't mean you can't be like a positive person for them.
Yeah. Do what you can to maybe help somebody else, free themselves from the daily matrix that they live in. That could be being considerate or nice to somebody, something to break up that, life monotony that so many people deal with that, can get kind of droning over time and can wear you down and stress you out and make you mad or upset or sad or whatever. Everybody that exists lives that life and deals with those things. And sometimes just, again, a smile at somebody, being nice to somebody, doing something for somebody else can break up that repetition and that program that keeps going every day. It can disrupt that, it can be that red pill that, disrupts their transmission signal.
Wow.
And again, that's one thing I want to mention too. Like, that term, being red pilled, I kind of hate that it's been taken over and labeled as like,
a political thing.
A political, like, right-wing thing or whatever. I kind of hate that. But, to use it in our own metaphors, that's how, we would classify, a red pill thing is, again, just doing something good for somebody else that disrupts that.
Goes against the flow.
That goes against that flow and that hardship of life.
Yeah.
And I think we'll all be better people and can make the world better by doing those kinds of things.
That's a good point. It really is, like it's just like when somebody stands up to when somebody stands up to the things that are like, out of the nature, like when when it's the person you see on a movie and they're the one that stands up to the bully for the weak person, right? For the person that's being picked on. And there's that crowd mentality, that herd mentality where nobody else has stepped in. You are, in a sense, taking the red pill and giving everybody else a little dose of that as well, because you're showing them what actual reality is.
Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean, standing up to the bully and the fact of like beating them up, but you stand up to them with kindness. That, like, if you really want to disrupt their system, that's the way to do it. Because
that is the status quo, right? Everybody's living in this thing where they don't want to get involved or they don't want to do whatever. But we have the ability. There's a great book by Sebastian Junger that talks about tribal behavior and how we live in societies that are too large. And I think social media hurts us. I think all of just like the 24-hour news cycle and just like the stuff getting pumped into our heads all the time.
Being plugged in all the time hurts us. But just remember that these people are not NPCs, and they are out there. They're other people. People love them. And I think that's another good piece of advice to kind of mention is unplug every once in a while.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like you said, we all live our lives always with the phone in our pocket or in front of our face, head tilted down, scrolling through something. Either that or on the computer or watching something. I mean, obviously, you're listening to us right now, but even in that in that aspect, like, take time to unplug every once in a while. Just shut electronics down, put things down, and even if it's really hard for some people, even if it's just sitting in silence for a minute, and just kind of like practicing the art of being.
A little bit of stillness.
Yeah, some stillness, some calmness, try to find some, serenity in your life.
Yeah, when you're taking your groceries inside, like, look up at the moon in the sky. Look up at the sky.
Yeah, if you go out and it's a clear night, just take 10 seconds, stop, and look up. So many people forget to do that. And just look up at the stars, count, see how many you can count.
Because realistically, we don't even have to be batteries that are powered by it. We can live in a matrix that is a real world matrix, but is controlled because they have the ability to control us through just giving us the media that we want to consume, just giving us mindless, empty calories through these other things, cell phones, social media, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that is a way to look at it, is like, you are kind of, when you take the time to, like you said, be nice to somebody, you're disrupting the matrix. When you're taking the time to stop and smell the roses, you're disrupting the matrix.
Yeah.
And enough of that, like I say, geeks fight better together.
They do.
And when they do, they disrupt the matrix.
They do. And I think that's one kind of goal in my life, is to, in maybe small ways here and there, wherever possible, but try and disrupt the Matrix every now and then.
So maybe while you're planting a garden or something like that, you can check out listen to us on all of these podcasting platforms. When you do get plugged back in, follow us on Geek ETC Podcast on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. And look us up on YouTube, Geek ETC Podcast, all one word. Search us on there. You can find all the podcasts on there as well as any popular podcast platform. Again, as we mentioned earlier, if you'd like to support this effort of breaking free of the Matrix, you can support us at patreon.com/geeketc podcast for as little as $1 a month.
Yeah, we'd love to have you join the crew. And honestly, like I said just a second ago, geeks fight better together, and be nice to each other out there.
Yes, do what you can to disrupt. Keep geeking out.